We're now going to talk about some of the combining operators in the Flux class. If you recall monos, there was a whole boatload of really cool combining operators that were defined in mono. So we had things that would be like first with signal and zip with and when and all that good stuff. And there's an equally large number of combining operators in fluxes as well. We're going to start out with some interesting ones. We're going to start out by talking about repeat and merge with. And these are operators that create a flux from multiple iterations or from multiple sources. And we'll see how those things work here in a second. So we'll start with the repeat operator. What the repeat operator does is it returns a flux that repeats the sequence of items emitted by the given flux for a num repeat number of times, where num repeat is obviously the parameter that's passed in here. So oddly enough, the results that are repeated are actually num repeat plus 1. So if you pass in 0, it'll replay the thing once. Not quite sure why it has that semantic, but that's what the semantic it has. And it returns a new flux instance. So this particular method doesn't operate by default on a particular scheduler. It's whatever scheduler it inherits from the context in which it's called, which could be the main thread, for example, as we show here, or it could be some subscribe on background thread if we give it a scheduler. So this particular example illustrates how this works. This is actually pretty cool. It's kind of like a loop. It's the reactive streams equivalent of a loop. And what it does here is it says, I want to make a random big fraction that'll be reduced, and I want to use from callable, and I want to use from. And remember, both of these are lazy factor methods. And what we then do is once we get back that particular flux with that particular value in it, we're then going to say repeat that 4 times. So we'll end up calling this thing 4 times. So we get 4 of these guys. So we generate 4 random reduced big fractions. RxJava has a repeat operation that works exactly the same. Interestingly enough, there's really nothing quite like this in Java streams. There's no repeat operation. It's kind of cool, but it's also a little bit hokey. But it's certainly usable, and it does it works well for this kind of use case where you are going to be creating a different value each time and you want to just make sure it happens. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the merge with operator. And this is going to go ahead and merge the data from the calling flux, whatever flux is calling merge with a publisher passed as a parameter. And the parameter that's passed in is the publisher we want to merge with. And we end up getting back a new merged flux instance. So what the heck does that mean? Well, what it basically does, it's actually pretty simple what it does. It combines items from different flux sources so they appear as a single flux. And you can see here that we have, let's say we have 2 fluxes, flux F1 and flux F2, which may have, however many elements they have in them. And if we say F1.merge with F2, that will merge them together. So the result, which we see down here, will contain all the various elements from the fluxes that are merged. This merging may interleave the items. This particular marble diagram shows them merging the items, but they don't necessarily get merged. It depends on various factors. They may get concatenated depending on various factors. If you don't want to interleave, if you want, say, everything in flux F1 to occur followed by everything in flux F2, you can keep your fingers crossed and hope that merge with will do that, and sometimes it will. But if you want to guarantee that it does it like that with no interleaving, then you should use concat with instead of merge with. And this all has to do with various factors like whether these things are running with delays, whether these things are running concurrently, blah, blah, blah. Concat with is a little bit stricter in that it takes everything from the first flux and then it concatenates everything from the second flux with no merging, whereas merge with may, under certain circumstances, merge stuff or not. There's also a merge with project with RxJava that works the same way on observable. These methods are similar to Java streams concat. It has a concat operation. And this is a very simple example. This is kind of a fun example here where we're going to write ourselves a little helper method that takes a list of strings and an int n, and it's going to return a concatenated list of strings. And the way it's going to do that is by using a stream. And check this out. This is actually really clever. So we say stream.empty. So we make ourselves an empty stream. And then we loop through the values of n, subtracting 1 each time until we hit 0. So we're going to go n times, basically. And every time through the loop, we're going to take the existing stream, and we're going to take the list, and we're going to turn it into a stream, and we're going to concatenate it. So we're going to put the stream of the list at the end of the existing stream, get back a new stream, and we're going to keep doing this. So we're going to keep concatenating these things at the end. It's really pretty cool. I'm not sure that would be the most efficient way to concatenate stuff, but if you want to concatenate stuff, you can do it that way using streams. And it's probably one of the more concise ways of concatenating something, right? It may not be the most efficient way, but it's certainly one of the most concise ways of doing it. Although honestly, you could probably use you could use add all to do the same kind of thing, which would probably run a little faster and be about the same length of code. And when we're done, we say s, which is the stream.collect_to_list, and we take the stream that has the concatenated values and turn it back into a list. Someone once asked me how you would implement this, so I was like, oh, let's see how I would do it. So that's why I wrote that example, just to see. It was kind of fun. So that's the end of our first set of discussions of combining operators in the Flux class. There are a boatload more of them that we will discuss later.